Hello there, and welcome along to Series 3 and Episode 8 of the Gardener Ben podcast. Brought to you in association with Peterbilt's Roses, winner of 30 Chelsea Gold medals and creating timeless roses since 1968. Now, whether we like it or not, the end of 2025 is looming and the festive period is just around the corner. Which means for many of us, we will be shuffling around our houses and dragging either a Christmas tree out of the attic, out of the shed, maybe from the back of a cupboard or under the bed, or heading off to our local garden centre or Christmas tree farm to cut one of our own, meaning that we need to squash and squeeze it into the house. Now, this is always a very challenging period of time in my household as we shuffle the furniture around and drag in a 13.5-foot Christmas tree. Now, you did hear that correctly. I did say 13.5-foot Christmas tree. For me, as a child, Christmas was always epitomised by the Christmas tree. And I used to absolutely love opening the door to the lounge when my mum had put the Christmas tree up and seeing it for the very first time. Through the month of December and into the early parts of January, I confess that I won't watch a great deal of TV at all. Instead, I sit in the armchair or on the sofa and simply stare at the Christmas tree in all of its glory. It is absolutely massive, and I confess that Mark and I actually built a room around our idea of what a Christmas tree should be, creating a 16.5-foot high vaulted ceiling which takes this huge tree, which we go off to our local Christmas tree farm and harvest every year. Getting this into the house is no mean feat, as you can expect, and we had to have a Christmas tree stand, especially imported from America, which is suitable for putting up shopping mall trees in because the tree is simply so big. Now, the tree is simply so big because over our 17-year-long relationship, Mark and I have actually been amassing and collecting a whole collection of Christmas decorations. This started very, very early on in our relationship. So the tree is very, very important indeed. We have quite literally now hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of hand-blown glass imported from our favourite designer via Poland into America and then back to the UK because you can't buy them in any other way. To the whole trunks full of them, which go out every single year. Each and every piece collected over a period of time which has and holds special memories for us. This, however, does cause a huge amount of problems in our house. Mark, being heavily asthmatic, is allergic to a lot of the dust kicked up by moving the furniture about the house. So the first of the month of December is often very challenging for him. He often sometimes has to take his inhalers an awful lot, and we have to be careful who does what jobs in the house. He's also highly allergic to the Christmas tree itself, coming out in hives and often making him sneeze uncontrollable. So during an episode of the podcast way back in season 2, when I spoke to the wonderful Dr José Costa about airborne allergies, we came up with a plot and a suggestion that Dr Costa would once again join me on an episode of the podcast and advise us all how we can survive the Christmas period when it comes to allergies. Now, this particular episode is not just about Christmas trees and how we can prevent an awful lot of the allergy problems that they cause, both because the fact they're harbouring large amounts of dust and dust mites and we're moving our houses about, but also the food that we consume and the way we eat it at Christmas time. As with my first episode with Dr Costa, there are several large key points to be made from this particular conversation, so I hope that you enjoy our chat and you learn something like I did. Now, if you cast your mind back, way back to the 19th of May in episode 15 of season 2, I was joined by José Costa, who is a specialist in children's allergies. And during that episode, we spoke all about hay fever and airborne allergies. And we came up with the idea of bringing José back just before Christmas to talk about allergies at Christmas. José, welcome back to the podcast. How have you been?
Thank you so much. I've been very good, thank you. And you?
Very, very well indeed. Thank you very much. Now, we spoke about several different things last time we touched base, and we ended up talking quite a lot about my husband and how during this time of year, as we approach, I know lots of people will be going, "Oh my goodness, don't mention the Christmas word right now. It's still a little bit way
Yes.
off." But he
Uh-huh.
goes through such a very, very difficult time of year at Christmas time, and you made some great points. So we're here today to talk about Christmas allergies, and very specifically to begin with Christmas trees and why people are allergic to Christmas trees.
Oh, that is such an interesting one, Ben. There's something called Christmas tree allergy or Christmas tree syndrome, but in reality, it can be a combination of many things. One of them, of course, the obvious thing is that comes from Christmas or Christmas trees, which are pine trees, is pine nuts. So people can be allergic to pine nuts, which is not, although it says the word nut, is not a true nut, is a seed.
Hmm.
But also people can be allergic to pollen. Although, to be honest, the pollen season for pine trees is not now. So I don't think that people will have it unless they've been stored with all the pollen there. So I think the main thing that most people need to look into is not just the mold. Pine trees can carry up to 50 different molds on them, and very often when people are going to collect it from those farms that have all the Christmas trees,
Yes.
as they are stored there, and they just bring them home, they will bring home the dust that they have, the molds that they have, and also, interestingly, they can bring spiders, and a lot of people can be bitten by spiders and then have an allergic reaction to them.
Oh dear. Well, we once brought a Christmas tree home with a bird's nest in it.
Oh, that
I
is
mean, it
probably
was.
more pleasant than the spider.
I was a little bit worried that there sort of might be fleas or something in it, and we'd warm them up in the house. So I did remove it and throw it out before we dressed the tree. But I do remember that quite clearly. So, if
Hmm,
someone is planning to bring a fresh or a cut Christmas tree into their house, would you
yes.
suggest, for instance, they washed it first? I mean, took it outside and hosed it off.
Absolutely. Either washing it or, even those leaf blowers.
Yes.
If you use one of them, either before you wash them or after you wash them, actually it's going to remove quite a lot of the things away. So by doing that, which is a simple thing outside, and for people that are a bit more sensitive, probably is a good idea to use a mask or some goggles. And then
Hmm.
after that, bring it inside and then start doing your decoration. Because I just remember as you're talking about the bird's nest, I remember in the past seeing small wasps' nests in Christmas trees. Imagine that someone is allergic to wasp venom, the significant allergic reaction that they can have if this happens.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah, because we get them quite a lot in the room I'm sat in now. We've got a wooden framed building, and then it sometimes the wasps and certain things come
Ah,
in during the summer, and then they hide in here. Um,
yes.
do apologise. Our labradoodle decided to wake herself up. Ethel, maybe not now, darling. Go and lay down. Good girl. So apologies for that. So
No worries.
So you think it would be a good idea to wash the tree before you brought it into the house. But my husband, very specifically, even if he touches the tree, he comes out and it quite literally hives up his arms and
Um,
over his hands. And
yes.
what's the relationship with that?
So that is a contact reaction. So that is a completely different thing that is happening to him. So there's a component there on the Christmas trees. So there's, is the from the sap of the Christmas tree, and that is
Hmm.
what it gives that specific smell, that characteristic smell that people associate with Christmas.
Which we all
Is
love
that
so much, yes.
Absolutely. So that there's a specific name. It's called terpenes, or some people also call it rosin. And that sap, when in contact with the skin, can get significant allergic reactions. And what is interesting is sometimes some people, and the way that sap works, is you might have a minor itch at start, but some often you're going to find that the reaction starts getting worse sometime some days later, sometimes up to 5 to 10 days later.
So it's quite a long period of time. It can remain on the skin as well and active.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so I always end up sort of lobbing the Christmas tree around on my own, and he don't get me wrong. I always try and make sure he's sensibly dressed because it's normally the forearms that go the worst. So even if I've given him
Ah,
a set of
yes.
gloves, it's normally the sensitive areas just inside the wrists and up the forearms which get the worst of it. But
Of
yeah, I mean,
of course. And if you imagine even the pine needles, if they get stung, if they stung him, they're
yes.
going to have some reaction there. They're going to have some sap, and then he's going to even deeper. So I can imagine that he must be suffering with that.
Okay, so there's some really good points there, and obviously to your suggestion there, if you're planning on bringing a fresh Christmas tree into the house, to either, as I said, give it a good wash or give it a thoroughly
Mm,
good blow with a leaf blower or a vacuum of some description outside, so that will relieve an awful
absolutely.
lot of it. Now, one of the other things that happens at Christmas as well is when we bring that Christmas tree into the house, whether it's artificial or real, it's a little bit like the children's book, A Squash and a Squeeze. We all have to sort of move the furniture about and we kick up an awful lot of sort of settled dust, and that can sometimes be an issue, can't it?
Oh, of course it can, because as you can imagine, as you do that, some pollens and molds and dust that has been deposited somewhere in a nook and cranny, as you move things around, they're going to get released into the air again.
Hmm.
And as you mentioned, you have dogs, and dogs will carry pollen on their fur. And of course, if the dogs have been cleaned and washed, there's not going to be much of the pollen. But imagine all the rest that is around there, or all the mold. If you imagine that you have removed or moved a piece of furniture, and then suddenly you discover that there's a bit of mold behind, and then you are releasing the spores into the air. So we need to be very careful with that, because as this season now is far more humid, the increased incidence of house dust mites is much higher,
Uh-huh.
but also the incidence of molds and mold spores is also high, because we are giving them the right temperature, we are giving them the right concentration of humidity in the air for them to thrive. So people need to be very aware about that and be very careful about that.
Oh, okay, and that's probably I'm assuming because we all tend to sort of shut our houses up during the colder months. We close the windows and restrict the
Hmm.
ventilation, and we pop the heating on. And I'm supposing that that's giving the mold spores the actual perfect opportunity to develop and grow and be released into the air.
Indeed, it is. And you said something very interesting, because you said about closing the windows and closing everything.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I realized here, which is different, I have some quite a lot of friends throughout Europe, in very cold countries, and it is their habit to every single day to open windows to aerate their houses. But I
Yes.
haven't seen much this happening here. So I know that the humidity inside their houses there is actually far lower than here. So they will have less problems with molds, they will have less problems with house mites than we suffer here in the country. So,
Okay.
and and the other thing that we need to consider is carpets.
Yes.
There's a lot of carpets in the houses here, and how many the carpets that are there, even if they are nicely cleaned, how old are they?
Yep.
So, how much mold, how much house dust mites are going to be on the corners or under the carpets? So, personally, and as I told you before, I'm doing home renovation and I don't like carpets. So my floors are hard floors throughout,
Hmm.
because I will prevent a lot of those things of the dust that goes into the air and causes airborne allergies. I will prevent quite a lot of them from happening. So something to consider.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things that we did with, I say, with Mark suffering so badly with dust allergies that I say all of the floors in the house are hard. I mean, they're a little bit firm underfoot. I must admit, we both have a
Mm.
very decent pair of slippers to wear in the house because otherwise your feet get very cold during the winter months. But it's funny you
Oh,
should
yes.
mention as well that culturally, it's not something that we do very much here in the UK. Is sort of open the windows, especially on a
Hmm.
cold day. It's something that we do in this household when we get up in the mornings. The first thing we do is throw open the windows and sort of let the air out and then let the air back in again, as to so to speak. But that again is something that you would suggest to keep the humidity and the moisture levels in the house down.
Yes, absolutely. Doing that, you do that, but also, and if you're going to talk about not just allergies, but health in general,
Hmm.
actually, if you don't aerate the place, the potential concentration of viruses and bacteria in the air is going to increase also significantly. So by aerating the place, you're removing quite a lot of those, and that will be helpful also for your lungs. So for you to have a healthier lung, because you're breathing, especially if you live in a nice area in which pollution is low,
Hmm.
you're going to have nice air for you to be breathing, because otherwise you produce your own pollution inside your home. So if you don't let that pollution go away and be replenished with fresh air, that can be quite damaging to your lungs as well, so to your airways.
Okay, so some very, very good basic but very sound advice there of how you can really help allergies during the winter months. We also
Hmm.
touched base when we spoke last about how there was a huge surge of food allergies with people over the festive period, and there was a really
Yes.
good point with yourself that was due to the sheer amount of foods that we ate at that time of year. That was correct, wasn't it?
It is one of the reasons, actually, we can backtrack the reason why people have allergies to foods nowadays back to the Neolithic. So, and if you go through, you have the the period of Saturnalia, which was used by the Romans, and you have the Jorvik used by the northern tribes, so the Vikings, and or the what's it called, the log,
Oh, the
and
Yule
what
log,
is
yeah.
that? So the Yule, so and at that season or that time of the year specifically, and you found that on the Neolithic people, they used to eat a lot of nuts because is the food of the season.
Hmm.
So and because of that, we remain that tradition from them. So from the guys in the Neolithic, from the Yule, from the Vikings and Saturnalia, from the Romans about eating nuts during the festive season. And of course, as the incidence of tree nuts is on the rise, uh, a lot of people are going to find, especially children, of course, are going to find that they are allergic to nuts during this season because they're going to have, namely, more like a cake or a sweet containing them.
And
So,
also that we tend to, obviously, when we feast over Christmas, and it really is a sort of a feasting occasion that we're bringing together lots of family and friends over a
oh
period a
yes.
period of several weeks. We're eating many more foods as well. And as we were talking in that conversation back in May about the fact that it's sometimes the combinations of foods that we're bringing together which are also causing people problems.
Oh, that sometimes is more because some people also going to have more. It's not so much of allergy problems; it's more of gastric problems. So some people
Hmm.
are going to find that they can have some sort of intolerances to some foods that with a bit of bloating and the problems that are associated with it. And that happens also during that the festive season. But that is more associated with carbohydrates. So some being it refined or unrefined sugars, they can lead to those problems. So as you can see, there's a myriad of problems from the allergies to the intolerance that can happen during this festive season. But when it comes to allergies, from food allergies to airborne allergies, so it's a tricky season, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, mind you, every single season seems to be a fairly tricky season if you're one of those
Mm,
people that unfortunately does suffer with allergies. So,
mm,
is there is
indeed.
there is there some is there a quick top couple of tips that you can give to people for surviving the period, the festive period, without sort of giving themselves getting themselves into a situation where they're having some sort of allergic reaction and may need to reach either for some sort of relief, as in an antihistamine or an
Mm.
inhaler.
So the best thing is if they know what is their main problem, what they suffer with,
Hmm.
be very open. Uh, People need to stop thinking that this is a stigma to say, I am allergic to. This is not a stigma. And the society has evolved a lot, and more people are aware that allergies are common. So when you go to a place, a friend's place or family house for whatever meal, be open, saying, sorry, I'm allergic to, or tell them ahead of time. Because very often, if we want to have our families and friends around, we will go out of our way to do something to please them and to put them at ease.
Yeah.
So by telling your friends and family in advance that you are allergic to whatever it is, I know that people will go out of their way. They will do something that will keep them safe. So that is the main thing. Be
It's
aware about that. Be
you've
open.
You've made a really good point there because I'm thinking back, and it's this whole episode. Obviously, my personal experience is very much with Mark, and it is something you've made really well there. He is incredibly polite and incredibly,
Mm,
I suppose, humble and quite shy coming forward with a lot of his allergies. Although it could be really quite bad. And I can think of several times when we've gone to people's houses, especially during the Christmas period, where I've tried to indicate for him to sit in a chair. And for instance, the person we might be visiting has a dog that he's allergic to more than
yes.
our dog, and he's ended up sat on a buffet cushion or sat on the floor with a dog on top of him, and you can see very quickly he loves dogs, but very
That is
quickly that's
suffering.
gonna cause him a really big problem. And actually, that would have been alleviated if either I or I had advocated for him, or he had been sort of vocal enough for himself to say, actually, no, actually, I need to sit up on the sofa, or I need to sit in an armchair, and sorry, please, can we stop the dog jumping on me because I am highly allergic. And some dogs he's worse than others with, as we discussed in that episode back in May. You were
Yes.
saying that a male dog and a female dog produce such different large amounts of of
Oh,
problems for a person.
absolutely, absolutely. Male dogs produce 8 times more allergen than female dogs. But also, some people can be allergic solely to male dogs because male dogs produce an allergen just specific to them. And if they are allergic to that one, I can tell you it is quite tricky, can lead to quite significant allergic reactions.
Hmm.
But as you say, sometimes people that are a bit more shy or polite, they tend not to say that they have a problem because they think they are being rude if they do. And that is that taboo that needs to be crossed over and say, look, sorry, is still being polite, but saying sorry, but I'm going to suffer or I'm going to have a reaction if I am in contact with. And I think you will not lose your politeness by saying that.
No, you won't. No, it's a really, really good point. So having a frank conversation and being open and honest about things, and that's your good advice for a festive season without problems.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Of course, for people that don't know that they are allergic to something and then something happens, well, that is a completely different history because they could not prevent it. But for the ones that know what they are suffering with, just be open. I don't see anyone that is going to be upset if you say, look, sorry, I'm allergic to something. They're
Hmm.
not going to be upset.
Yeah, again, it comes back to the point that I think we made in that episode back in May, where you said it's really important to understand what you're allergic to.
Mm-hmm.
Whether yeah, I think we were talking about mark, and we were talking about dust, and we were talking about hay fever, and all of those things together. And it's like understanding what your particular trigger points are, and understanding them. And again, I have to step in at certain times and say, right, for instance, when we're moving the furniture, it's like, look, I know you want to help, but actually
Mm.
for this 10-15 minutes this takes me to do, it would be really good if you sort of stepped out the room and went and did something else, and I'll do
Mm.
this bit and get the hoover around and get the floor wiped, and then we're ready to go with the other bits, because again, it's a lot of this stuff is packaged up for 10-12 months at a time, and all of that disruptions is what we've found actually really sets him off. And unfortunately he gets really quite triggered when it comes to the collapse down of those items as well, when you're
Yeah,
then taking
indeed.
the tree down and putting the baubles back away and all of those things.
But you know one thing, Ben, and it's even recently, even this week, I had a nearly 40-year-old man that came to my clinic, and the reason for him to come to my clinic is, look, I've been putting up this for far too long, and without being tested, and now I want to be tested. I want to know what I'm allergic to. And
Hmm.
sometimes people do this. If you think they have an allergy, be tested, be investigated, so that way you'll know it is an allergy or not, how bad is it, and how can I manage it. And it is so simple and straightforward. And because afterwards, actually, most of these people come out of my clinic with like it was a fresher breath air because suddenly they know exactly what is their problem, and instead of trying to avoid everything in front of them, they know that there's only one or two that they need to avoid. They can manage their problems and they can inform everyone else about what is really their problems instead of just having a kind of a guesswork.
Yes, yeah. And of course, we were talking just before we started our recorded conversation that you yourself at the moment you've purchased a new property which you're having large amounts of renovations done to.
Oh,
And that's
headaches,
cau- and
headaches.
and that's and that's causing its own set of problems for you as well, isn't it?
Oh, indeed it is, because you know sometimes it is a very old property. I like old properties; it's beautiful, and I'm trying to restore it, to that original glamour, that characteristics that they have, which are so interesting. But as I'm taking things out, I've discovered so much mold on the walls that I had to treat
Hmm.
because it can be so dangerous for anyone that is living there, breathing there, sleeping there. So is a tricky one, but although although as I was telling before, I'm having headaches with it. I'm having nightmares. At least I know that I'm doing the right thing. And this one of my friends was saying, "You're suffering from PTSD now." Because I was just over the weekend, I was in an allergy conference in Spain, and I tell you, I woke up in the middle of the night smelling of dust. That this is how much it's affecting me.
I love talking to people about home renovations because I don't know many people that can trump the level of home renovation we did with the house I'm currently sat in, because it was
Yeah.
absolutely monumental. Our house is 327 years old and had been
Yeah.
very, very untouched for a very long period of time. We had a hole in the roof when we moved in. We have a thatch, and there was a great big chunk of thatch missing from the north elevation of the house, and there
Hmm.
wasn't pretty much any. There was no kitchen here. We actually had a squirrel living in in our bedroom wall. It had got
So
itself under
interesting.
got itself underneath the thatch and behind the stink pipe for the toilet, the pipe that
Uh-huh.
lets the odors out of the tank, and had built a nest, or what they call a dray, in behind the wattle and daub walls, which I had to sort of break out and refill in. So yeah, I used to lie underneath that bulge in the in bed, because the head of the bed was that way round, and I used to look at this sort of bulge in the wall that was protruding about 9 inches, thinking one day someone's going to flush the
Yes.
toilet on the opposite wall and the cistern's going to fall
Coming
through
out.
the it's going to fit
Ooh.
out. So it was an unspoken rule in our house for quite some time, that until that wall was fixed, that nobody flushed the toilet during the night, just in case it fell on me in the toilet. So this house
But
again, I fully empathise with you. It was quite triggering. It's
but at the end of the at the end of the day, it's worth it, isn't it? Because
it
you have
is, yes.
something with character, and that is the main thing. Because nowadays, sadly, most of the building work that you see have no character whatsoever,
Hmm.
and these old properties has a character that I believe needs to be restored and showed. And even if you're going to find all the molds, all the house dust mites, all the problems, you can take care of it, and you have something beautiful in front of you. But in the meanwhile, do as I did. I moved out. I'm in an hotel because I cannot be there with all the stuff that is going on.
Yes.
Because because I have a bit of a house dust mite allergy, so I would suffer while being there. So it is worth do the renovation, but please move to a place that is safe, in which the air is more clean than where it would be there in the house.
So how long is it, do you think, before you'll be into your new house?
So by Thursday next week, so I have a cleaning company going thoroughly through everything. Is almost going by page on my books, cleaning everything. So 2 days to do complete house cleaning that are going to be there. So Thursday I'm moving back.
Oh, not long ahead of you now. You'll be all nice and comfy, cozy in your new home very soon.
Oh, yes, because today they went to clean the fireplace and install one of those wood burning stoves.
Hmm.
And I received, because I've ordered three cast iron radiators, some of them decorated cast iron radiators. I received the three of them today, so I'm just there ready to be installed. So yeah, I'm really looking forward.
Wonderful. So you'll be well ahead of the festive period, and you'll be able to celebrate, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. It doesn't matter. But you'll be able to take some time with the family over the back end of the year and enjoy your new home.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to try my best for that to do that.
I've just realised that we've touched on real. If you wouldn't mind just backtracking with me for a little bit, we touched
Of
on
course.
real Christmas trees, which is something that
Mhm.
affects my household. But what about artificial Christmas trees?
Mm. So the artificial Christmas. Remember we spoke about molds.
Yes,
So now
yeah,
imagine when the Christmas season is over and people take down the Christmas tree, which some, as you can know, some people take it down on Boxing Day, some people take it down at the end of January, and
yes,
all
yeah,
variations in between. Now they store it. And
yeah,
as they store, and sometimes in a shed, in the attic, whatever it is,
yes,
again, they're going to be full of mold, they're going
hmm,
to be full of dust. They're going
yeah,
to be full of spider webs and so on. So actually, the plastic ones, probably the only thing that they're not going to have is the pollen from them, from the trees themselves.
hmm.
They're not going to have the pine nuts because they are plastic, of course, and they're not going to have the sap. But all the other things that also can be quite terrible for the ones that suffer with airborne allergies are still going to be there. And again, be careful with spiders because a lot of them are going to be completely covered with spiders. And I can tell you that sometimes the spider venom can be quite dangerous.
Okay, so again, we're going back to the fact that actually some of these trees are stored for quite literally 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. People are getting these trees out, so
Yes,
they're collecting dust and spores over that period of time. So again, I would assume that I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I would assume that your advice for those, if you can build it, take it outside and either give it a thoroughly good shake or a blow off with the leaf blower we talked about a second ago, or maybe even consider giving it a little bit of a wash down with a hose pipe.
Oh, yes, definitely. Although personally, I'm in favor of natural Christmas trees instead of plastic because I'm not much in favor of plastics because of all the pollution that becomes associated with
Hmm.
it and all that.
Yeah, I'm
So, yes.
just a bit aware that Mark did manage to talk me into an artificial Christmas tree about 6 years ago, on the basis that he was highly allergic, and we had this thing every year with the
Uh,
real Christmas tree. We had the real with the artificial Christmas tree for 1 year, and I took such a dislike to it. It just wasn't the same. It didn't have the character for me. I did not enjoy dressing it. I did not enjoy looking at it. We sold it.
in,
We sold it
yes,
before we put it away. But yeah, so actually, on the flip side of that, that we could people with allergies, severe airborne allergies, could actually be causing themselves more of a problem by having an artificial tree than they would do,
yes.
for instance, if they had a real Christmas tree in their home.
Imagine this as well, because it's something that people do not take into account. If you have an artificial Christmas tree, so you're going to have a lot of coloring agents being used to paint the tree.
Hmm.
And as you put the Christmas tree there on a beautiful corner that is normally in a very warm room, the heating of the Christmas tree and the heating of the plastic that is there is going to start releasing all those chemicals into the air. So someone that has already breathing problems will actually will suffer quite a lot with it. So that is something that very often is not considered about the chemicals that are released from an artificial tree. So be very careful with that as well.
Okay, goodness me, it's an absolute minefield, isn't it, by the sounds of things? So, as people
Yeah.
have got a lot of decisions to make of which way to go, whether for environmental reasons or allergy reasons, you choose a real Christmas tree, or whether
Mm.
you spin your luck and you might deal with the chemicals evaporating and a large
Yes.
collection of dust off of your artificial tree.
Many choices there. There are many choices there. But honestly, between all of them, I still am in favor of a natural Christmas tree that is sourced in the correct ecological way. That's what I do myself. I like to do that because I know that I'm going to source it in a nice way. And most of the places when I go and collect a Christmas tree, I know that I can deliver the Christmas tree back, or they can collect a Christmas tree. So they're going to, compost it or use it to do logs for wood burners, things like that. So there is an ongoing cycle that is actually recoverable. So I personally I prefer that one, but of course everyone has a different
Very good.
choice.
I mean, personally, I feel very strongly about this, the same thing as you. We have a local Christmas tree farm where every single year we go to, and I don't know, I will say this, although I'm smiling to myself because people are going to think we're crazy. We have to be let into we have to phone ahead of time and email this particular Christmas tree farm and be let into a very special field to choose our
Yes.
Christmas tree.
Oh,
Because it's the size of a shopping mall Christmas tree that comes into the house. We built an extension to our home some years ago, specifically, very specifically, to house a Christmas tree. When the Christmas tree goes up, we've got a vaulted ceiling in this room, which is over 16 foot high. So the tree, when it comes
wow.
in, is over 13 foot high. So you can't normally just go and buy a 13-foot Christmas
In a
tree from
normal
some.
place.
No, no. So it's we have to get let into a special field that they're
Yes.
keeping back for sort of outside churches and outside shopping centres, that kind of thing, and then it involves a tractor to get the Christmas tree to where it's quite a feat, and then bringing a Christmas tree into the house physically is a juggling act as well. But it's something I thoroughly enjoy every year. It takes me
But
about
but
two
I
days to
think
do.
but I think it is part of the joy of Christmas, isn't it?
It for us,
And
it
that
is,
is,
yeah, very
and
much
that is
so.
one of the things that I see, for instance, from some of my friends from Nordic countries, so Norway, Sweden, Denmark. There's still the tradition to go into the fields in places that are well selected for them to cut the top of specific Christmas trees,
Hmm.
and they use the top of the Christmas tree as their own Christmas tree. And I feel that that tradition of going there and the kids seeing it, and of course it's professionals that go to the top of the tree and cut it. But that tradition, because it's the tradition that goes through centuries, and going into the field and see how things are is so much healthier than going into whatever supermarket buying a plastic one that you unfold the branches and build it up and put it there on the corner. Yeah, as I said, everyone to each taste.
Well, I'll close the episode by just saying a very little funny story to titivate you quickly. That
Mm.
last year, the Christmas tree farm that we visited, for some reason, couldn't get the insurance policies they needed to allow people into the fields to cut their own trees.
Wow.
So basically,
Interesting.
they decided they were going to cut the crop. So you went and you could, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to choose a tree from a rack. I wanted to wander around the field and choose my own tree. And
Yes.
we take a pocket full of red ribbons with us as we wander around, and we tie red ribbons to them as we grade them.
Ah,
And we
yes.
maybe choose 5 or 6, and then we take the ribbons off. And the one that ends up with the most ribbons, so it ends up eventually with like 4 or 5 ribbons tied to it, is a tree that we end up having. So
Good choice.
I copped a strop last year and decided if I couldn't have the Christmas tree that I wanted in this house, we weren't going to spend Christmas in this house, and we went all the way down to Cornwall and spent a Christmas in another house.
Well, at least you went to another place that is nice. Cornwall is very nice.
Yeah. So that just highlights you just how important this tree is to me every single year.
It
That
it is indeed.
I threw all of my toys out of my pram and copped a strop, and we ended up in Cornwall.
Well, hopefully this year is going to go better than previous year then.
We've already spoken to the Christmas tree farm. Everything is already arranged.
Oh,
It's all organised. And
brilliant.
yeah, and I'm talking to you on the 1st of November, so people will realise just how ahead of the game I already am.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Jose, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. There's some really
My
lovely bits
pleasure
of
as well.
information in there for how people can survive the Christmas season ahead with food and airborne allergies, and bringing either an artificial or a real Christmas tree into their home. Best of luck with moving back into your property. I hope that you and your
Thank
family
you.
will be very, very happy in your new home.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. But thank you anyway.
Tell everybody very quickly where they can find you if they need any help online.
So I have a website called the Children's Allergy, thechildren'sallergy.co.uk. So if they want to go there, they can find me. They can also follow me on Instagram, which is also the Children's Allergy. So I'm both on that, either Instagram, Facebook, or on my website. Either of them, you can find me there quite easily.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope you have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Ben.
end to your year, and say thank you so much for joining me
The same
today.
to you and your husband.
I thank you. Take good care now. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
I hope that you enjoyed the conversation I've just had with Dr. Costa, and like me, you learned an awful lot from our conversation. I want to extend my personal thanks to Dr. Costa for once again being so gracious with his time, and I look forward to speaking to him again in the future. Now, full disclosure, going back to that 13.5 foot Christmas tree. Once that tree is selected from our local Christmas tree farm, it is brought home, the base of it is cut, and it's placed into its enormously large shopping mall Christmas tree stand and dragged upright into the house. That's as far as Mark's contact with the tree is allowed to go. Dressing the Christmas tree is very much a Ben thing and very much a Ben domain. Once the Christmas tree decorations are unwrapped, and they go through a process which we in this house called grading, which involves taking them all out of their individually wrapped tissue paper cradles and placing them onto large trays and dinner trays so they can actually be sorted and graded into different types, different colours and different sizes to be placed into the tree in different ways. It is then up to me to dress the tree. Covering it in around 2,000 lights, it takes me around 8 hours solid to place around 1,500 individual glass ornaments onto the tree. This is always an incredibly stressful day in our house, and Mark knows only too well to stay clear while we're in this particular transitional period. After a certain amount of time, I will stand back from the tree and I will give it a little tweak. Sometimes I will move things about. But the problem with the whole collection is that as you are up normally a 12 or 14 foot ladder dressing a tree of this size, you know full well that if a very precious glass bauble leaves your hand at any particular moment, the likelihood is you're never ever going to see it again. And you know full well that it is going to be smashed into 1,000 different pieces if it hits the floor. This has only happened on a handful of occasions, but those decorations are very, very sorely missed indeed. So I found through trial and error it's best for me to be left all on my own, and I'm accountable for anything that breaks. Anyway, I hope that you have a stress-free and allergy-free period of time as we enter the festive period, putting up your Christmas trees or whatever you choose to dress your house with this season. Next week on the Garden of Ben podcast, I have the absolute pleasure in bringing you a very important conversation with Sally, who is part of the Peat Free Partnership. Now, I had a conversation with Sally just a few weeks ago about the ongoing debate about the use of peat in the horticultural industry, and more importantly, the hidden peat in the plants and products that we're buying on a regular basis. This is a conversation which has been raging for almost 3 decades, and the extraction of peat is still legal in many places across the world, compounding the problems we're having with flash flooding as they hold a massive amount of water, and of course the release of large amounts of carbon dioxide into our environment that has been remained locked up for thousands and thousands of years. Look out for the conversation I had with Sally next week, and make sure if this is a topic that you feel passionately about, you're not only signing the petition that her and the rest of the Peat-Free Partnership are placing at the door of Parliament, but also writing to your local MP to make sure that you're expressing your opinions about the extraction of peat from the environment and the massive amount of damage it does to our environment. The Gardener Ben podcast is brought to you in association with Peter Beals Roses, winner of 30 Chelsea gold medals and creating timeless roses since 1968. Go online and shop at www.peterbealsroses.com and make sure that you're following along on Instagram and TikTok. Until next week, happy gardening.